and welcome to the University of Plymouth and welcome to our employability video project. To get us started, could you introduce yourself and what your role is?
Sure. Hi everyone, my name is Ben Carter. I'm a recruitment manager of Bishop Fleming. We're a firm of chartered accountants. We're based throughout the South West and West Midlands, so we have 7 offices, employ about 350 people, and we actually have an office here in Plymouth in Sutton Harbour.
Thank you. Okay, so tell us about Bishop Fleming. What makes a career at Bishop Fleming so appealing to a graduate?
Sure. So what I would say is our graduates get real responsibility from day one. So they get to work with a really broad range of clients across various different sectors. Each graduate we hire is considered a really important hire to our business. And as they progress through their training, we're really trying to give them all the skills and attributes that they need so that they can progress into management once they become a fully qualified accountant. It's not all about work. We actively encourage our graduates to get involved in CSR activities, business development activities, all of which contribute to helping them become rounded business advisors.
Great, so it's a really well-rounded experience.
Yeah.
Okay, so could you tell us a little bit about the recruitment process if a student wanted to apply to the scheme?
Sure. So we try and make it as straightforward as possible. Interested applicants can apply via our website www.bishopfleming.co.uk/careers. It's a fairly straightforward application process. You apply via a simple application form where you upload your CV and cover letter. I would encourage applicants to take the time to write a cover letter. And then there's 4 or 5 straightforward questions, the standard ones. Do you have a driving licence? If you're on notice, what sort of notice period are you required to give?
Right.
You'll then, if you meet our basic entry requirements, you'll be asked to complete a numerical reasoning test. You'll do that online. Shortly after, you'll receive a phone call from our recruitment team where we'll conduct a short telephone interview. This is nothing to be worried about. It's more to update you with where your application is within the recruitment process. And then within sort of 2 to 3 weeks following that, you'll be invited along to an assessment day. We tend to hold those in each of the offices that we have, and they tend to last for half a morning or half an afternoon, and there'll be a mixture of activities to assess the skills and attributes that we're looking for.
Great, thank you. So it's quite a well-rounded process, and
Yep.
you keep checking in with the graduates, students, as long as they go through the process.
Yeah, they will speak to people from the moment they apply to us, so there's a lot of interaction there.
Great. So if we can move along to actually what you look for in an application when you're recruiting, because all firms look for different things. So I'm going to ask a few questions around that process. So what advice would you give to graduates or students looking to apply in terms of their application? So perhaps starting with what actually makes a quality application?
Okay, so what I'd recommend everybody to do is for every application that they make, and I'm conscious that graduates will probably be applying for anything from 10, 15, 20 jobs per cycle, I would really recommend that they tailor an application to that specific employer. So what I mean by that is really take time to tweak your CV to make sure that all of the skills that you have are illustrated in the correct way, all your grades that you achieved are accurately recorded so that the recruiters or the HR team aren't having to contact you for that information. They've already got it there. It needs a good first impression. Really take the time to write a covering letter. It doesn't need to be pages long, but if you can just show that you're genuinely interested in not only the role but also the company, it will really set your application apart from the thousands of others that companies receive.
Yeah, so using the actual information about the job and your research into the company to actually really inform and structure your letter is good advice.
Yeah, and you can even reference things that you may have seen on the company's website, things in their social media feeds. All just helps to set your application apart from the rest, because there are a lot of graduates who will just send their CV, it won't be tailored at all, and you'll be able to tell that it's been sent to an accountancy role one day and then a business development role the next. It's very generic, and that sort of turns recruiters off.
Well, that was my next question, which is what immediately puts you off an application?
I would just say that the generic applications, one where people will write, I'm looking for a graduate job in a large company. Most people who receive CVs will be able to guess that, this CV's probably gone to your firm and 50 others with a click of a button. in terms of really trying, the other things which do put me off is typos in covering letters and CVs. I know it sounds silly, but try and get your partner, boyfriend, girlfriend, whoever it may be, just to proofread your application before you click send, because quite often with us, Bishop Fleming is spelled with one M. It's surprising how many people will submit an application with two M's, and immediately we pick up on it, and it's a silly little mistake which can be rectified very quickly if you do a good thorough proofread.
I think the key thing there is those graduates are going to be working with clients and maybe letters or emails, and you want to make sure that the quality will be there.
Yeah, and one of the key attributes that we assess is attention to detail.
Right.
You know, you're going to be working with a client's finances, you're going to be wanting to give them accurate and timely advice. And if you're making mistakes in your initial covering letter, it doesn't fulfil the reader of your application with confidence that you're going to be able to not do that in the future role.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think the application is about indicating how, you know, your potential. It's not about where you are now, but your potential. And I think you've got to always represent yourself really well.
Yeah, and it's about trying to get a balance between your academics but also your extracurricular activities.
Right.
Soft skills are particularly important, and although they'll probably be assessed mainly at telephone interview stage and face-to-face interview stage or selection day, you know, if you can sort of subtly drop in what skills you've developed from maybe an internship or some work experience which complements your academics, it can just further strengthen your application. And what I would also encourage people to do is, even if your academics don't quite hit the mark, still take the time to write a good application. Firms, including themselves, are being a lot more open to applications than they've ever been before. So if you can take the time to really write a well-tailored application, it may just enable you to then get in front of that person or business as such, and then you'll be able to, you know, have a good conversation and hopefully, you know, be able to secure a role.
Great, thank you, that's excellent. So moving on to application, you get to interview. What makes a good quality interview when somebody's actually there in front of you?
I know it sounds, you've probably heard this lots of times, but I would say research is probably key.
Right.
It's amazing how many graduates come along to our selection days, and within about 10 minutes of meeting them and sitting them down for the interview stage, you just know that they haven't done any research on the company at all. And it is so easy to do research. You know, we're not looking for somebody to memorise our website or our client base. It's really just to demonstrate that you are genuinely interested in working for Bishop Fleming, as well as doing the role that you've applied for. So I recommend people just to have a look at the About Us sessions on every website, follow that company you're applying to on their social media feeds. That might then give you an opportunity to talk to the interviewer about any big client wins that they've promoted on Twitter, any CSR activities. You can just subtly drop those into conversation during the sort of interview process, and it will immediately make the interviewer realise that this person is very keen to work for the business.
Yeah. And I think the key thing there is that your research should be about whether the company is right for you. It's not just about you.
It's very much it's a two-way street with regards to interviews. And what I would say as well is, you know, one of the key things that we look for is somebody who can build a two-way rapport when they're being interviewed.
Right.
We know that everybody is going to be nervous. We take that into account. But what we're really looking for as an employer is future business advisors, people who can build rapport at people at various different levels. So in our role, you might be speaking to a finance director one day and then a school head teacher the next. All have differing levels of financial knowledge. Now, if you can illustrate that during the assessment day you've been able to build rapport with our current ACA trainees as well as our partners, you're already demonstrating those soft interpersonal skills which are particularly important. And having talked to various other colleagues in different sectors, the soft skills are now what is the most important. To keep it simple, we want people who can talk to other businesses and advise and just be professional.
Yeah, and I think that's where the extracurricular at university really comes into benefit. You know, sports clubs, teams, societies, networking events, you know, where you can show that you've invested those skills, because like you say, business is about people.
And if you can demonstrate in your CV and throughout the application process that you're trying to go out and find experience or gain skills which is beyond your degree programme, it's only going to, you know, sell yourself in a better light. There's lots of graduates out there, all of which have got good undergraduate degrees, but ones who are able to secure a job, so the ones who, you know, make that effort to go to an accountancy insight evening, or they make that effort to apply for a couple of summer internships and secure those. And although those summer internships and insight evenings might not be exactly what you want to do in the long term, you can still put them on your CV to demonstrate that you've actually gone out and looked at your options as you progress through your sort of studies.
That's really good advice. Because you don't know what you want to do until you know what you don't want to do.
Yeah.
And it just shows that you're going to learn soft skills at any kind of place that you invest in, I think.
And it's the same with coming along to interviews. You know, you might not be 100% sure that the job is right for you, but I would always recommend prepare as if it is your dream job, because you're always going to be in the strongest position. You could get offered a job, you're more than, you know, able to turn that job down, but you're then in the, you know, you've got the bargaining power there. So rather than going to a job interview and going, oh, I'm not really sure about it, it doesn't matter either way if I don't get it. If you can go there, really prepare well and impress and get that job offer, it just opens up the number of opportunities available to you.
Yeah, and gives you some confidence to then go into either something else or actually think, oh, actually no, because I've been there, I really like it and I want to take it. Yeah. You mentioned candidates looking on social media maybe at things that people who work for you have posted, etc. On the reverse side, do you, as HR professionals, look at LinkedIn for candidates, their social media and things like that before?
We will look at LinkedIn. Typically that tends to be more so on the experienced hire rather than the graduate hire side of things, albeit we are now seeing more graduates are building their own LinkedIn profiles, particularly if they've been on industrial placements. Again, I'd recommend everybody to do that. LinkedIn's free. It takes half an hour to build a fairly solid profile, and it just shows that you're trying to connect with that business community. And as you know, it becomes a more candidate-driven market. I think more recruiters like myself are going to be trying to engage with graduates on the likes of LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. You know, if you have got social media channels, and I imagine most people will have, Facebook, Twitter, all I recommend that people do is to make their profiles private, because there will be some recruiters who will look at Facebook, will look at Twitter. It doesn't always portray that candidate in the light they should be, but it's not in a business situation. So if you make it private profile, then you aren't going to have any problems.
And how do you, LinkedIn's a good example here, but it might be sometimes roles will say, well, you can contact us for information before you apply, or some candidates, if they've met you at a careers fair, might connect. Would you advise somebody who's really interested in a role to connect with you before?
Yeah, I think if you've engaged with somebody at a careers fair, by all means, send in a connection request. Most companies, including themselves, have a contact us page on their careers site. And by all means, if you've got a specific question about the application, do pick up the phone or drop an email, because it's an opportunity for you to build rapport with that person. The only tips I would say is just don't go over the top. You know, don't ring 3 or 4 times, as you run the risk of them maybe annoying that person and you know them remembering you for the wrong reasons.
I think it's just useful for students to know where they feel like, oh, I don't want to risk contacting them before in case I get it wrong. But I think if you do have a genuine question about relocation or working hours or the training program that's part, you know, because there's particularly accounting, there's different ways to train. I think if it's a genuine question, there's nothing wrong with it.
I would really encourage, if it's a genuine question, to get in contact, because you know the person that you're speaking to will be able to give you more of an update on where your application is within the process, give you some timescales so there's peace of mind. Some graduate programs, including ourselves, although they open in October, we probably won't hold selection days until sort of mid to the end of November. So that's a 4 to 5 week period, and we would not want candidates to think that, you know, their application has been unsuccessful just because of that 3 or 4 week break. So again, I encourage anybody, if they feel like they need an update, to pick up the phone or drop an email and engage.
Yeah, and like you say, it's just about making sure you've got kind of a genuine reason to be contacted, not just to remind them that they're there, remind you that they're there. Any other general advice, but maybe particular to Bishop Fleming, about any student who's thinking, yeah, this is really for me, how can I make the best of it?
I'd recommend that they apply early.
Okay.
Because our vacancies, they all go live on the 1st of October every year, and rather than having a closing date, we tend to recruit until they're filled. So the sooner they're filled, the quicker they come off the website, basically. I'd encourage them to mention in their covering letters if they've engaged with any members of Bishop Fleming whatsoever. It might even be for Young Enterprise when they were at school. It might be coming to careers fairs, work experience, anything like that, because it just shows an affinity to the company there. And most of all, I would just show, you know, a willingness to come and talk to us as a firm and compare us to the other opportunities that are out there, and, you know, make the decision from there, really.
Right. Yeah, that's good advice. Get as much information as possible, research, but also look early, because you're much better off, I think, if you get ahead of the race, aren't you?
Yeah, particularly if you're a final year graduate. You're probably going to have quite a lot of work on, and the later you leave it, the closer you're going to get to your final exams, and then you're in a bit of a chicken and egg situation. You want to get a good degree grade, but at the same time you want to secure a graduate job. So my recommendation is think about applying for graduate jobs from sort of September through to December. You may then have some assessment centres in January. They might clash with January exams, but most firms will schedule them around the outside of the exam periods. And then you can always secure a job by, say, February, and you can relax into your final exams, knowing that your future's secured. You can focus on getting that 2-1 or first, whatever it may be, and then you can start your graduate job in September.
Yeah, great, good advice. Yeah, start early, front load, I think, is a good idea. All right, we're going to move on a little bit to graduates recruiting and actually talk about your role as a recruitment or HR professional within a firm.
Sure.
Because it's of great interest to lots of graduates to enter a field in HR.
Yeah.
So what do you see as your core function as a recruitment professional?
Yeah, so my core function at Bishop Fleming is to attract great talent into Bishop Fleming and basically promote it as being a great place to work.
Yeah.
So my job is I'm responsible for recruiting everyone from director level all the way through to sort of graduate or school leaver trainees into a firm.
Right.
I'm very much a people person, so each day my job is about engaging with potential applicants, engaging with our internal stakeholders, so that might be our partners, our hiring managers, trying to understand what their needs are from a resourcing perspective, advising them on market conditions, and then taking those vacancies to market and filling them with the right people.
So you talked a little bit about being a people person, but what actually attracted you into a career in recruitment?
Yeah. Well, I like talking to people, to be completely honest with you. And recruitment is one of those things where you can really engage with a real range of different people. It's one of those roles where you do have to be fairly tenacious at times, and you also need to be mindful that you're playing a big part, I would say, in people's sort of career decisions. There might be times where people, you could be working with them for maybe 3 or 4 months or on a quite senior role, and then at that point they turn around and say, actually, I'm going to stay put in my current employer, and you just need to respect that, because it's somebody's career at the end of the day. With graduates, it's a little bit more the opposite side of things. It's about giving them a little bit of coaching and advice. Some may be not used to applying for jobs, they might not used to be referencing, documentation, and it's about being able to support that person through the process. So yeah, I'd say supporting people and ensuring that they're happy with the decisions they're making.
Great. What does a typical week look like for you? So if somebody was thinking, this is what I want to do, what would a typical week look like?
So typically for me, we've got 7 offices. Traditionally I'm based out of our Exeter office, but I'd say probably 2 of those 5 days I'm working from a different office. Right. That's an opportunity to engage with the people in each of those offices, to maybe deal with some specific interviews linked to that office. May start with sifting the CVs, engaging with recruitment agencies, finding out how they're getting on with the recruitment of our roles, engaging on social media, trying to target different people on LinkedIn, making sure that our social media channels are all up to date with the vacancies that we're looking to fill. Speaking to and coming to universities like Plymouth today, engaging with our target market there. Right way through to onboarding, so when people have been offered a job, speaking to them throughout their notice period, checking that they're happy with what they're going to be doing on their first day, who they need to ask for, arranging for them maybe to go out for a bite to eat a week before, just so that they're used to maybe the culture. All of which just brings everything together to make sure that we're attracting the best talent into Bishop Fleming.
Yeah, so it's always about communication channels, it sounds like to me, whether it's kind of externally or internally facing or to individual candidates. You're always, sounds like
there's a lot of stakeholder management.
Yes,
internal and external. And it's one of those roles where it's very fast paced. We're currently operating in a very candidate driven market. So what I mean by that is there are a lot more vacancies and jobs to fill than there are people at the moment, particularly on the experience side of things. And because of that, when good people do come onto a market, they can be snapped up very quickly. So in order for us to be competitive and to stand a chance of securing that good talent, you have to move quickly. So that's about having a very efficient recruitment process, about being prompt with responses, prompt with arranging interviews, and making sure that everybody is on the same page with that. So it just gives a whole professional service.
Yeah, and it sounds like you need to be really flexible.
Yeah.
As a person, your working style and methods, and things might change through the day.
You can come in one day thinking I'm going to do that, and then a phone call, probably like in a lot of roles, can change your priorities immediately. Sometimes you need to be prepared to get in the car and go to a different office to meet with a very good candidate, because that candidate has only just come onto the market, they're particularly keen to come and see you. So it's just about showing a willingness. And obviously within my role, I sit within a HR team, so it's about contributing to that whole people function. So although I'm predominantly doing recruitment, I'm also supporting our HR generalist team on case management, on employee relations, learning and development, developing induction programs. So it's quite a broad and varied role, and if people are interested in developing a career in HR, recruitment and resourcing is a very good place to start, because you tend to be at the forefront of the sort of people life cycle. So you're probably the first person they're going to engage with. You're going to go all the way through a resourcing program with them. Then you're going to get them into the onboarding and L&D side of things, new starter phases, and then you'll probably be that person they come to, for support or training in the future. So it's quite nice. You get to see everybody sort of progressing through the organisation.
Yeah, and like you say, you really are performing quite a core role to the whole business.
Yeah.
So what's the greatest challenges of the role?
I'd say the greatest challenge at the moment, and I touched on it earlier, is in fact it's a very candidate-driven market. We've got a lot of exceptional vacancies which we feel, would really add to people's careers, but it's very challenging to find the candidates to fill those vacancies. There's a lot of companies out there, our key competitors, who are looking for exactly the same person, and there's very few people out there with the skill sets that we're looking for. So it's the lack of candidates, I would say, is the biggest challenge.
Right. And what about the greatest successes for you in your role?
I'd say the greatest successes is I've obviously I've recruited the graduates in, and I've seen them progress to the point where they become ACA qualified. So that's probably the feel-good factor of the role. You see them when they come in for the interview. You see them on their first day. You see them after they've got their first year ACA exam results, and then you see them once they qualify and then actually go on and be managers themselves, and they're actually interviewing trainees to come and work for them. And that's what I enjoy the most, really, because you can tell that they've been happy in their role. They've stayed with the firm, but they've also developed their careers as well.
Great, so you get to see that whole journey. Let's talk a little bit about how you've got to where you are. Obviously, you're in quite a successful role, and and done very well. What kind of training qualifications have you taken over kind of the course of your career to ensure that you can do your role?
So I'll be completely honest, I sort of fell into the whole recruitment side of things. I graduated in 2009 when it was the middle of the recession, so there wasn't a huge number of vacancies available for grads. And it was really one of those things where I fell into recruitment. I did a graduate scheme with a company called Michael Page, quite a large recruiter. Did 2 years with them, moved back down to the southwest, which is where I was originally from, worked for an independent recruitment agency, and then I thought, you know what, I want to move in-house and move into more of a HR orientated role. I only studied through a diploma in recruitment practice, which is provided by the Recruitment and Employment Confederation whilst I was doing recruitment. However, when I moved into HR, I completed the CIPD Level 5 diploma in HR management, which is the typical qualification you would study if you were going into HR. There's various different levels, the Level 5 somewhere in the middle. and now I tend to go on workshops rather than do specific qualifications. So that could be workshops on selection techniques, psychometric testing, coaching of team members, that sort of thing.
Okay, thank you. In terms of students thinking, right, okay, I've heard about what I need to do, I've heard about the sector, whilst they're at university, what would you recommend they do to gain maybe just some skills development to enter into a role in recruitment or HR?
Yeah, so lots of firms offer summer internships within HR and their people functions. First and foremost, I try and secure one of those, maybe in between your first and second year. Then I would try and go to as many sort of business networking events as you can. Universities often put those on. Mm-hmm. They just give you those and help develop those interpersonal skills that you'll need in HR, the ability to talk to lots of different people at different levels.
Okay. Any final key bits of advice you'd want to share with a student who wanted to come to work for Bishop Fleming?
I would just show some enthusiasm. Enthusiasm is one of the best ways in which you can sell yourself at interview. If you come prepared, well prepared, enthusiastic, then we'd love to meet you at the interviews.
Great. Thank you, Ben. Thank you for your help.
Thank you.